the wrong person at the right time. The morning rush at Grandview Hotel was always chaos, but Zara Chen had learned to dance through it. She weaved between tables in the hotel's elegant cafe, balancing trays and forcing smiles for guests who barely looked up from their phones. At 23, she had perfected the art of being invisible while serving the wealthy and powerful who frequented the five-star establishment. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her uniform was pressed despite being second-hand. Zara couldn't afford the designer clothes that surrounded her, but she carried herself with quiet dignity that her manager, Mr. Harrison, often complained about. He preferred his staff to be more submissive, more eager to please the hotel's elite clientele. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Zara was rushing to deliver a complicated coffee order when she spotted a familiar silhouette near the entrance. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive dark suit, her heart jumped with excitement. A case of mistaken identity. Her best friend, Rosa, had been dating someone new, a successful businessman she'd met at a conference. Rosa had shown her photos, gushing about how handsome and charming he was. The man by the entrance had the same build, the same confident posture. Had to be him. Without thinking, Zara abandoned her tray on a nearby table and practically ran toward the entrance. She was so excited to finally meet the man who had put such a huge smile on Rosa's face that she didn't notice the details. The perfectly tailored suit that costs more than her monthly salary. The way other guests stepped aside respectfully. Subtle but unmistakable aura of power and wealth. Before the man could turn round completely, Zara threw herself into his arms with genuine enthusiasm. "Rosa told me so much about you, but she didn't mention how tall you were." She laughed, hugging him tightly. "I'm so happy to finally meet you. She's been floating on air since you two started dating." The man stiffened immediately. His body was firm, more muscular than she had expected, and he smelled incredible. Not like cologne from a drugstore, but something expensive and sophisticated that made her head spin slightly. The shocking realization slowly, very slowly. The man pulled back just enough to look down at her. Zara found herself staring into the most striking grey eyes she'd ever seen. They were the color of storm clouds, intense and penetrating, framed by dark lashes that most women would kill for. His face was angular and handsome in a way that belonged on magazine covers, not in her everyday world. This was definitely not Rosa's boyfriend. "Oh my God," Zara gasped, jumping backwards so quickly she nearly tripped over her own feet. Her face burned with embarrassment as the reality of what she'd just done crashed over her like a cold wave. "I am so sorry. I thought you were someone else entirely." The stranger's eyebrow arched slowly, and there was something almost amused in his expression. "Someone else? My friend's boyfriend," Zara stammered, wanting to disappear into the floor. "You have the same build and I saw you from behind and I just assumed. Oh God, this is so embarrassing. I don't usually go around hugging random strangers. I swear." An unexpected reaction. What surprised Zara most was that the man didn't seem angry. If anything, he looked intrigued. He studied her face with an intensity that made her squirm as if he was trying to solve a puzzle. "Your friend's boyfriend," he repeated slowly. "And you were that excited to meet him?" "Rose has been really happy lately," Zara explained, still mortified, but somehow unable to stop talking. "She's usually so unlucky with guys. And then she met this amazing businessman who's been treating her like a princess. I guess I got carried away." The man nodded thoughtfully. "And what did you think of me before you realized I wasn't him?" "I mean," Zara blinked, caught off guard by the question. "Well, you seemed nice, successful." Rosa said her boyfriend was charming and had a good heart underneath all the business suits. Something shifted in the stranger's expression, but before Zara could interpret it, her manager's sharp voice cut through the air. "Miss Chen, what are you doing?" Facing the consequences, Mr. Harrison stormed over, his face red with anger and embarrassment. He was a small, balding man who made up for his lack of presence by being unnecessarily harsh with the staff. "I am so sorry, sir," he said to the stranger, completely ignoring Zara. This employee was completely out of line. "Won't happen again." "Actually," the stranger said calmly, "it was a misunderstanding. No harm done." But Mr. Harrison was already in full damage control mode. Miss Chen returned to the kitchen immediately. "We'll discuss this later." The threat in his voice was clear. Zara felt her stomach drop. She needed this job desperately. Her younger sister Juno was in college, and their parents had passed away 3 years ago in a car accident. Every penny Zara earned went toward keeping them both afloat. "Please," she said quietly to her manager. It was an honest mistake. I thought I recognized him. An unexpected defender. The stranger stepped forward slightly. "If I may," he said to Mr. Harrison, and there was something in his voice that made the manager immediately defer to him. "Your employee was simply being friendly. In my experience, genuine warmth is rare in places like this. I'd rather have someone accidentally friendly than deliberately cold." Mr. Harrison's eyes widened slightly, and Zara realized that her accidental victim wasn't just any wealthy guest. He was someone important enough to make her normally arrogant manager nervous. "Of course, sir, you're absolutely right. Miss Chen, return to your duties." As Zara gratefully escaped back to her station, she could feel the stranger's eyes following her. She tried to focus on her work, but her hands were shaking slightly as she picked up her abandoned tray. A daily mystery. The next day, the same man appeared in the cafe. He chose a table in Zara's section and ordered a simple black coffee. When she approached his table, her heart was pounding with leftover embarrassment. "Good morning," she said professionally. "Out. What can I get for you today?" "Coffee, black, and maybe an explanation." Zara frowned. "An explanation?" He smiled and it transformed his entire face. "Yesterday, you mistook me for someone else. Today, you're treating me like I might bite. Which version of you is real?" The question was so direct, so unexpected that Zara found herself answering honestly. "Both, I guess. Yesterday, I thought you were someone I'd heard wonderful things about. Today I know you're a complete stranger who probably thinks I'm insane." "I don't think you're insane," he said quietly. "I think you're interesting." Growing curiosity over the following week, the mysterious man became a regular fixture in Zara's section. He never told her his name, and she was too proud to ask. He always ordered the same black coffee, always sat at the same table, and always seemed genuinely interested in talking to her during her brief breaks. He asked about her life in a way that felt real, not like the polite small talk she was used to from wealthy customers. He wanted to know about her art, her dreams, her opinions on everything from books to the weather. In return, he shared little pieces of himself, his love of old movies, his complicated relationship with his family, his belief that most people were performing rather than living. Zara found herself looking forward to these conversations more than she cared to admit. There was something about this stranger that drew her in. Maybe it was the way he listened, like her words actually mattered. Maybe it was how he seemed to see past her uniform to the person underneath. The question that changed everything. On Friday of that week, as Zara was refilling his coffee cup, the stranger asked a question that made her freeze. "Zara," he said quietly, "why do you work so hard to be invisible?" She almost dropped the coffee pot. "What do you mean? You move through this place like you're trying not to be noticed. You're beautiful, you're smart, you're kind, but you act like you're apologizing for taking up space." No one had ever seen her so clearly, and it terrified her. "Maybe some of us can't afford to take up too much space," she said defensively. The stranger was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that surprised her. He pulled out a business card and placed it on the table. "I'm Damon Blackwood," he said simply, "and I think you deserve to take up all the space you want." Zara stared at the card, her heart stopping. Blackwood Industries. She'd heard that name before, seen it in newspapers. Damon Blackwood was one of the youngest billionaires in the country, a tech mogul who'd built an empire before his 30th birthday. She'd been having coffee and conversations with a billionaire for a week, and he'd never once made her feel small. As she looked up into his grey eyes, Zara realized that her simple life had just become very complicated, and despite every reasonable instinct telling her to run, she found herself wanting to stay and see what happened next. The accidental hug that had started all suddenly seemed like the least surprising thing about Damon Blackwood. The weight of truths stared at the business card long after Damon had left the cafe. The elegant black lettering seemed to mock her from the white cardstock. Blackwood Industries. She'd seen that name on billboards across the city and financial magazines left behind by hotel guests, even on the news. The company owned everything from tech startups to real estate developments. She'd been chatting casually with one of the most powerful men in the country, and he'd been treating her like an equal. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. That evening, as Zara walked home to the small apartment she shared with her sister Juno, she couldn't shake the memory of Damon's grey eyes. There had been something almost vulnerable in them when he'd revealed his identity, as if he was bracing for her to change how she treated him. "You're glowing," Juno observed, as Zara entered their tiny living room. Her 19-year-old sister was curled up on their second-hand couch, textbooks scattered around her. Despite being in her second year of pre-med at the local university, Juno always seemed to have time to read her older sister's moods. "I'm tired," Zara lied, hanging up her coat. "Tired people don't smile at nothing." Juno grinned. "Who is he?" Secrets and worries. Zara wanted to tell her sister everything, but how could she explain that she'd accidentally befriended a billionaire? Juno would either think she was lying or worry that Zara was getting in over her head. Oh, both reactions would be fair. "Just a customer at work," Zara said, which was technically true. "How are you feeling today?" The change of subject worked, but not in the way Zara had hoped. Juno's bright expression dimmed slightly. "I'm okay. A little tired, but that's normal with all the studying." Zara studied her sister's face carefully. Juno had been tired a lot lately, and while she insisted it was just stress from school, Zara couldn't shake her worry. Their parents had died in a car accident 3 years ago, leaving Zara responsible for everything. Oh, she'd gladly taken on the role, but sometimes the weight of it felt crushing. "Maybe you should see a doctor," Zara suggested gently, "just to make sure everything's okay. Doctors cost money we don't have." Juno reminded her practically. "Besides, I'm fine. Stop worrying so much." But Zara couldn't stop worrying. It was her job to worry. An unexpected proposal the next morning. Damon was back at his usual table. When Zara approached with his coffee, she was determined to act normal, whatever normal meant when serving a billionaire who'd seen through all her carefully constructed walls. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwood," she said formally. He looked up from his phone and there was amusement in his eyes. "Back to Mr. Blackwood, are we? I think it's more appropriate considering what?" Zara sat down his coffee with unnecessary precision. "Considering you could probably buy this entire hotel with your pocket change." Damon leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Oh, does that bother you?" "It should," Zara admitted honestly. "From completely different worlds. You probably spend more on lunch than I make in a month." "Probably," he agreed without shame. "Does that mean we can't be friends?" The word friends hung between them, and Zara realized she wanted much more than friendship with this complicated man. That realization scared her more than his wealth. "I don't know what we can be," she said quietly. Damon was quiet for a long moment. Then he surprised her. "I have a business dinner next Friday. Small group, very important clients. I need someone to cater it, but not some fancy catering company. I want real food made with care. Are you interested?" "A dangerous deal." Zara blinked. "You want me to cook for your business dinner? You mentioned you liked to cook. Said it was one of your dreams before life got in the way." The fact that he'd remembered that small detail from one of their conversations made her chest tight. "Damon, I make sandwiches and heat up soup. Not qualified to cook for your business associates. I'm not asking you to impress them with technique," he said calmly. "I'm asking you to cook food that tastes like someone cares about it. There's a difference." Zara wanted to say no. Every reasonable part of her brain was screaming that this was a bad idea. The offer came with payment that would cover Juno's doctor visit and still leave money for groceries. "How much?" she asked, hating herself for being practical. When Damon named the figure, Zara's knees nearly buckled. It was more than she made in 3 months at the cafe. "That's too much," she protested. "That's what good food is worth to me." Entering his world Friday evening found Zara standing in the kitchen of Damon's penthouse apartment, trying not to hype. The space was larger than her entire apartment, all gleaming surfaces and state-of-the-art appliances. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, city sparkled below like a jeweled carpet. She'd spent the entire week planning the menu, shopping for ingredients with money Damon had insisted on advancing her. Simple comfort food, elevated with high-quality ingredients, herb-crusted salmon, roasted vegetables, homemade pasta with truffle oil, and her grandmother's recipe for chocolate tart. "You look nervous," Damon said, appearing in the kitchen doorway. He was dressed in a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than Zara's car, but his expression was gentle. "I am nervous," she admitted, checking the salmon for the 3rd time. "What if they hate it? What if I embarrass you in front of your important clients?" Damon moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. "Zara, look at me." She turned reluctantly and found herself caught in his intense gaze. "Could serve them peanut butter sandwiches and they'd pretend to love them because they want my business," he said seriously. "But that's not why I asked you here. I asked you here because I wanted to spend time with you and because I wanted to give you a chance to do something you love." Meeting the elite. The dinner guests began arriving at 7. Zara watched through the kitchen service window as Damon greeted them. There were 6 people total, all dressed in clothes that cost more than most people's cars. The women dripped with jewelry. The men wore watches that could fund a small country. And then there was Victoria Sterling. Zara knew who she was immediately, even though they'd never met. Victoria was Damon's ex-fiancée, a socialite whose face appeared regularly in gossip magazines. She was tall, blonde, and devastatingly beautiful in the way that only came from excellent genes and unlimited money. "Damon, darling," Victoria purred, air kissing his cheeks. "I was so surprised to receive your invitation. I thought we were avoiding each other these days." "Business is business, Victoria," Damon replied coolly. "Your family's investment firm is perfect for this project." Zara tried to focus on plating the first course, but she couldn't help watching the interaction. Victoria moved through Damon's apartment like she still belonged there, touching his arm casually, laughing at his comments with practiced charm. The performance begins dinner service went smoothly at first. The guests complimented the food, and Zara felt a surge of pride she hadn't experienced in years. She'd forgotten how much she loved creating something beautiful and nourishing for others. She was clearing the main course when Victoria's voice carried into the kitchen. "The food is lovely, Damon, very rustic. Where did you find your caterer?" "She's local," Damon replied simply. "How quaint. Hope you didn't pay too much for this level of service. My usual caterer charges a fortune, but at least she's trained." At Lord & Blue, Zara felt heat creep up her neck, but she forced herself to keep working. She was used to condescension from wealthy people. It shouldn't bother her coming from Victoria. But then Victoria appeared in the kitchen doorway. The confrontation. "You must be the help," Victoria said, looking Zara up and down with barely concealed disdain. "The food is adequate, but next time you might want to invest in proper servingware. This isn't a diner." Zara looked down at her simple black dress and modest jewelry. She'd thought she looked professional, but under Victoria's scrutiny, she felt shabby and out of place. "I'm glad you enjoyed dinner," Zara replied politely, continuing to load the dishwasher. "Oh, I've had much better," Victoria continued, clearly enjoying herself. "But I suppose Damon is trying to be charitable these days. Sweet, really. How he tries to help the less fortunate." The words hit Zara like a physical blow. Was that what this was? Charity? Had Damon hired her because he felt sorry for the poor waitress who'd accidentally hugged him? "I should get back to my guests," Victoria said with fake sweetness, "but thank you for the experience." Damon's defense. Sarah was fighting back tears when Damon appeared in the kitchen 20 minutes later. Victoria said, "You seemed upset. What happened?" "Nothing," Zara lied, not trusting her voice. "Zara," his tone was gentle but insistent. What did she say to you?" When Zara finally looked up, the concern in his eyes nearly undid her. "She thinks I'm your charity project." Damon's expression darkened immediately. "She said that, not in so many words, but yes, without another word." Damon turned and walked back to the dining room. Zara heard his voice, calm, but with an edge of steel she'd never heard before. "Victoria, I think it's time for you to leave." "What?" "Damon, don't be ridiculous. You're rude to my guest, and that's unacceptable in my home." There was shocked silence, then Victoria's voice, higher and tighter. "Your guest, that little waitress, is your guest. Zara is someone I care about, and you insulted her. So, yes, it's time for you to go." A revelation. The apartment was quiet after the guests left. Zara had finished cleaning the kitchen and was packing up her supplies when Damon found her. "I'm sorry about Victoria," he said quietly. "She had no right to speak to you that way." "She wasn't wrong," Zara replied without looking at him. "I don't belong in your world, Damon. Tonight proved that. Tonight proved that some people in my world are shallow and cruel." He corrected, "It didn't prove anything about you." Zara finally looked at him, and the intensity in his grey eyes took her breath away. "Why did you really hire me tonight?" she asked. Damon was quiet for a long moment. Then he moved closer. "Because I wanted to see you shine. Because I wanted to give you a chance to do something you're passionate about, and because I wanted an excuse to spend an evening with you." "Damon, I know this is complicated," he continued. "I know we're from different worlds. I can't stop thinking about you, Zara. I can't stop wanting to know everything about you." The confession hung between them, electric and dangerous. Zara felt herself leaning toward him, drawn by something stronger than logic or common sense. But then her phone buzzed with a text from Juno, and reality crashed back. She had responsibilities, a life that didn't include billionaire fairy tales. "I should go," she whispered. Damon nodded. disappointment flickering across his features. "Let me drive you home. I can take the bus, Zara." Her name was a plea. "Let me do this one small thing for you." As they rode through the city in Damon's sleek car, Zara stared out the window and tried to ignore the growing feeling that her heart was in serious danger. She was falling for Damon Blackwood, and that was the most terrifying thing that had ever happened to her, because men like Damon didn't end up with women like her, and the sooner she remembered that, the safer she'd be. The discovery 2 weeks after the dinner party, Zara's world shifted on its axis in the worst possible way. She was helping Juno organize old family papers when she found it, a yellow document that made her blood run cold. Foreclosure notice, the header read in bold, unforgiving letters, Chen Family Restaurant, -1247 Oak Street. Her hands trembled as she read the details. 5 years ago, her parents had struggled to keep their small family restaurant afloat during the economic downturn. They'd taken out loans, fought desperately to save the business that had been their dream. It's their legacy. But at the bottom of the foreclosure notice was a name that made Zara's stomach drop. Blackwood Industries. "Juno," she called shakily, "come here." Her sister appeared in the doorway, took one look at Zara's face, and immediately sat down. "What's wrong? Did you know about this?" Zara held up the document with trembling fingers. "Did you know that Blackwood Industries foreclosed on Mom and Dad's restaurant?" Juno's face went pale. "I thought you knew. Mom mentioned it once. Said some big company bought up their debt when the bank sold it. I was only 14, Zara. I didn't understand all the details." But Zara understood now. She understood everything with crystal clarity. Damon's company had destroyed her family's dream, forcing her parents to close the restaurant they'd poured their hearts and savings into. The stress had been enormous, contributing to their decision to take that fateful late-night drive to look at a potential new location. The night they'd died, confronting the truth, Zara didn't sleep that night. She stared at the ceiling, replaying every conversation she'd had with Damon. Had he known? Had he been playing some sick game, befriending the daughter of people his company had ruined? The next morning, she called in sick to work and went straight to Blackwood Industries. The building was a gleaming tower of glass and steel, intimidating in its modern perfection. Zara had never felt more out of place as she stood in the marble lobby, clutching the foreclosure notice. "I need to see Damon Blackwood," she told the receptionist. "Do you have an appointment?" "Tell him, Zara, Chen is here. He'll see me." Damon's assistant led her to his office space that was both elegant and masculine. The view of the entire city. Damon looked up from his desk as she entered, and his face lit up with genuine pleasure. "Zara, this is a wonderful surprise. I was just thinking about you, were you?" She pulled out the foreclosure notice and slammed it on his desk. "Were you thinking about this, too?" The painful truth. Damon's face went completely still as he looked at the document. The silence stretched between them like a chasm, and Zara watched as understanding dawned in his grey eyes. "Zara," he said quietly, "I can explain." "Explain what?" "That your company destroyed my family's restaurant. You knew exactly who I was. When I accidentally hugged you that day." His voice was firm. "I didn't know. I swear to you, I had no idea about your family's connection to my company until right now." "I'm supposed to believe that." Damon stood up slowly, moving around the desk toward her. "My company handles hundreds of acquisitions and foreclosures every year. I don't personally review every case, especially not from 5 years ago." "You do now," Zara said bitterly. "Now you know that you're talking to the daughter of people you financially ruined." "Zara, please let me explain how this works. When properties go into foreclosure, we often buy the debt from banks. It's business, not personal." "Not personal." Zara's voice rose. "My parents lost everything because of your business decisions. They died stressed and heartbroken, trying to figure out how to rebuild their lives after you took away their dream." Breaking point. Damon's face was pale, but he stepped closer. "I'm sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry for what happened to your parents. If I had known ... what you would have made an exception. You would have saved one little restaurant out of the goodness of your heart. I would have found another way," he said quietly. "I would have helped them restructure their debt, given them more time, anything. But you didn't know, so you didn't care." Zara felt tears burning her eyes, but refused to let them fall. "Do you know what this means, Damon?" "Means that every moment between us has been built on a lie. That's not true, isn't it?" She laughed bitterly. "The poor girl whose family you destroyed accidentally hugs you, and you find it amusing. You keep coming back to the cafe because what? You feel guilty. You hire me to cook dinner as some kind of penance. You know that's not why. I don't know anything anymore." Zara picked up the foreclosure notice with shaking hands. "I thought you were different. I thought you saw me as an equal, not as someone to pity. I do see you as an equal. Your family situation has nothing to do with how I feel about you. Walking away how you feel about me." Zara stared at him. "You mean how you feel about the poor little orphan girl whose life your company helped destroy? How noble of you, Damon. How charitable." "Don't do this," Damon said, and for the first time since she'd known him, his voice cracked slightly. "Don't let my company's past actions destroy what we have." "What do we have?" Zara demanded. "Really, what do we have? You're a billionaire who could buy and sell my entire life without thinking twice. I'm a waitress who can barely afford her sister's college textbooks. We were always living in a fantasy." She turned toward the door, but Damon's voice stopped her. "I'm falling in love with you." The words hit her like a physical blow. She turned back slowly, and the raw emotion in his eyes nearly broke her resolve. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't make this harder than it already is. I'm falling in love with your strength, your kindness, the way you light up when you talk about cooking. I'm falling in love with how you take care of your sister, how you work so hard for everything you have. None of that has anything to do with money or business or the past." "But it does," Zara said through tears. She could no longer hold back. "It has everything to do with it. Your money, your business decisions, they shaped my entire life. And I can't separate the man I'm falling for from the company that destroyed my family." The crisis. Zara left Blackwood Industries that day, determined never to see Damon again. She threw herself into work, picked up extra shifts, and tried to pretend her heart wasn't breaking. But 3 days later, everything changed again. She was at home making dinner when Juno collapsed in the kitchen. One moment her sister was laughing about something that happened in her chemistry class. The next, she was on the floor unconscious. The ambulance ride to the hospital was the longest 20 minutes of Zara's life. In the emergency room, a doctor with kind eyes and a serious expression delivered news that shattered her world. "Your sister has kidney disease," Dr. Roberts explained. "It's advanced, and she's going to need immediate treatment. There's also a possibility she needs a transplant." Zara felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. "But she's only 19. She's always been healthy. Sometimes these things develop silently," the doctor said gently. "The good news is that if we act quickly, she has an excellent chance of recovery. But the treatment is expensive, and her condition is serious enough that we can't wait for insurance approvals." The number Dr. Roberts quoted made Zara's head spin. Even with her insurance, the out-of-pocket costs were astronomical. More than she could earn in 5 years at the cafe. Pride versus love. That night, sitting beside Juno's hospital bed as her sister slept, Zara faced the hardest decision of her life. She had exactly one option for getting the money Juno needed, and it was the one thing she swore she'd never do. She could call Damon. Pride wared with desperation in her chest. She'd walked away from him, told him she'd never wanted to see him again. How could she call him now, asking for help? But as she watched Juno's pale face on the hospital pillow, pride became irrelevant. This was her baby sister, the only family she had left. She would swallow her pride, beg if necessary, do anything to save Juno's life. With trembling fingers, she dialed Damon's number. He answered on the first ring. "Zara Damon." Her voice cracked on his name. "I need help." The rescued Damon arrived at the hospital within an hour, still wearing what looked like a business suit from a meeting he'd clearly left in the middle of. His hair was disheveled, his usually perfect appearance showing signs of stress. "How is she?" he asked immediately. "Sleeping. The doctors say she'd be okay if we can afford the treatment." Zara couldn't meet his eyes. "I know I have no right to ask this, especially after what I said to you, but I need money. A lot of money. I'll pay you back somehow. I swear. Even if it takes the rest of my life." Zara looked at me reluctantly. She lifted her gaze to his. "You never have to pay me back," he said quietly. "I'll take care of everything. I can't accept charity." "It's not charity, it's love." It's the simple statement hung between them, and Zara felt something crack open in her chest. "I'll handle all the medical expenses," Damon continued. "I'll talk to the doctors. Make sure Juno gets the best care possible. You don't need to worry about money." "Why?" The word came out as barely a whisper. "Because you're the most important thing in my world, and she's the most important thing in yours." The gesture 2 days later, while Juno was stable and responding, well, to treatment. Zara found an envelope slipped under her apartment door. Inside was a legal document that made her hands shake. Damon had bought back her family's old restaurant property. Not just bought it, but had it legally transferred into her name, along with enough money to renovate and reopen it if she chose. There was a note attached in his careful handwriting. "I can't change the past, but maybe I can help build a better future. This should have been yours all along. No strings attached, no expectations, just love." The choice. Zara sat in her tiny apartment, staring at the deed to her family's restaurant, and realized that love wasn't about being from the same world. It wasn't about having the same amount of money or the same background. Love was about seeing someone's heart and choosing to protect it. It was about putting someone else's happiness before your own pride. It was about showing up when it mattered. Most Damon had shown up. In return, she found him at his office the next evening, working late as usual. When his assistant tried to stop her, Zara simply walked past. Damon looked up as she entered, and the hope that flashed across his face nearly broke her heart. "How's Juno?" he asked immediately. "Better, much better. Thanks to you." Zara moved closer to his desk. "I came to return this." She placed the restaurant deed on his desk. Damon's face fell. "Zara, I'm returning it," she continued, "because I don't want it as a gift. I want it as a wedding present." The silence that followed was electric. Damon stood up slowly, his eyes locked on hers. Are you proposing to me?" Zara laughed, and it felt like the first genuine laugh she'd had in weeks. "I'm saying that I love you, Damon Blackwood. I love your ridiculous generosity and your complicated heart. I love that you defended me to Victoria and that you dropped everything to help Juno. I love that you gave me back something I didn't even know I'd lost. And I'm saying that if you're willing to figure out how to bridge our different worlds, then so am I." The beginning. 6 months later, Zara stood in the kitchen of Chen Family Restaurant, now fully renovated and reopened. The dinner rush was in full swing, and she moved through the organized chaos with confidence and joy. The restaurant was exactly what she dreamed it could be: warm, welcoming, serving food made with love and care. Juno, now fully recovered, worked as a server between her pre-empt classes, charming customers with her bright smile, and sitting at table 12, the same table he'd claimed as his own from the very first day, was Damon. He came in every evening, after work, just like he used to at the hotel cafe, but now, instead of stolen conversations over coffee, they had a whole life to build together. The engagement ring on Zara's finger caught the light as she plated the evening special. It wasn't the biggest diamond in the world, but it was perfect, just like the man who'd given it to her. As she carried Damon's dinner to his table, Zara reflected on how much had changed since that first accidental hug. She'd learned that love wasn't about finding someone from your same world. It was about finding someone willing to build a new world with you. And when Damon looked up at her with those storm-gray eyes full of love and pride, Zara knew they'd built something beautiful together, something worth fighting for, something that had started with the wrong hug and ended with exactly the right love.